Hey Vault Dwellers, JV here, and today I'm sharing my Wasteland starter guide for Fallout 76. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for more Fallout 76 videos just like this. Before we jump in, big thanks to CamelWorks for allowing me to use his gameplay. This should be the last video in which I'm using his footage from the Greenbrier event. Please go check out his channel in the description below. The beta starts in just a few hours on Xbox One, so I thought I'd share 10 tips in the early game to keep in mind. These will help you level quickly, decrease downtime, and maximize your efficiency during your first limited play session. And at the same time, these should be helpful down the line when the game officially launches on November 14th. My first tip for saving time starts right when you create a new character, and that's not to worry about character creation, because in Fallout 76, you can edit the way your character looks at any time, down to the gender, whenever you want through the pause menu. You just have to click pause and then navigate to the option that says change appearance. And again, you can do this whenever, so there's really no point in wasting time when you've got limited time to play in the beta. Perk cards can get out of hand really quickly in this game. By level 5, you'll have 25 options to choose from. So here are a collection of starter perks that I would take as early as possible. These are not specific to any particular build or play style intentionally, so these should be universally useful no matter how you plan your character. On your way out of Vault 76, you will instantly go to level 2 and have your first perk card choice. The 3 that jump out at me are Concentrated Fire, Inspirational, and Action Boy. VATS is different this time around, but Concentrated Fire unlocks your ability to target individual body parts. It's very useful for specific enemies, like targeting ghouls' legs to slow them down. Inspirational is smart because you never know when you're going to be in a group, and taking something that gives you more experience as early as possible is very smart. So if you plan to play this with friends, grab Inspirational immediately. And then Action Boy is super useful. Having this as early as possible is going to allow you to be more efficient in combat when you're using VATS. At level 3, you'll unlock Scrounger. I think this is particularly useful for any sort of gun-related build. Finding more ammunition out in the world is going to be helpful. You don't want to run out of ammunition when you're out there questing. At level 4, I'd encourage you take Lone Wanderer. Be careful though, it has a 2 charisma requirement, which means one of your level up special points must be put into charisma for you to equip this perk card. Taking less damage and having more AP regen just makes you that much more efficient when you're playing by yourself. And again, you can swap these in and out, so you can grab both Inspirational and Lone Wanderer and then swap them if you decide to join a team or go alone. I would also consider Hacker. This allows you to hack into computers. You won't be able to access them at all if you don't have this card, and you can swap this in and out when you come across a computer that requires you to hack in. This just allows you to get into doors and locations and find items that you may otherwise be locked out of. And then at level 5, I would take Picklock for the same reason as Hacker. You want to be able to maximize your ability to find useful gear and get into places that other people can't. You may be wondering, what do I do with my special level up points and how do I allocate those in the first few levels? I wouldn't worry too much. It's so early on. We know that we'll have 56 total points to work with, which means you could have 8 across the board. So I would go with what you need, maybe put 1 in charisma, consider luck so you get some better drops, consider intelligence so you craft better items. My next tip is to consider playing with a group for several reasons. First off, intelligence no longer dictates your experience gains, and we see that Inspirational is a perk card that directly gives you more experience if you're playing with others. You'll want to maximize that. If the Greenbrier footage is anything to go off of, we know that playing in a group means you're dealing so much more damage to enemies. The scaling is kind of weird in that you're going to get through stuff a lot more quickly in a group. Groups will also allow you to complete workshops more easily. Workshops depend on your ability to defend something or complete an objective, and most of the time they will require other players. So instead of traveling to one and waiting around for others to join you, you will have a group with you already. And finally, in terms of maximizing time, if you're in a group and you're not even questing together, you could spread out, and that gives you free fast travel points to wherever your teammates are. You get a free fast travel. It costs 0 caps to any teammate whenever you want in Fallout 76. So keep that in mind. Speaking of workshops, my next tip is to complete events as much as possible. When you open up your map, you will see a light hexagon icon. It's a yellow hexagon whenever there is an active event. If you're playing alone or with a group, it doesn't matter. You should try to do events as much as possible. Not only do they give you great experience, they can give you significant rewards. You can get armor, you can get weapons, crafting materials, very valuable items in the first few hours of the the game. So I would try to do as many events as you possibly can. My next tip is to loot absolutely everything in the game that you can possibly see. Junk is even more important in this game because items have conditions. Your weapons and armor will degrade over time and break down, so you'll have to spend the junk that you get, the components that come from that junk, in order to repair them and also to craft new items. You don't want to be in a situation where you don't have the proper materials in order to repair a weapon that is your best option at that level. You just never want to do that. So always make sure you're picking up junk. Along those same lines, make sure you're always crafting and cooking as much as possible. Both of those actions actually net you experience in this game. I've looked at the Greenbrier footage. I can't tell if it's based on your level, if it's a percentage of your level. However, I do know that early game, it's going to help bump you up quite a bit. Now, doing things like discovering new locations or killing enemies, those will absolutely net you more experience. But if you're keeping your gear updated, making sure you're as strong as possible, that's going to make you more efficient in the long run. Side note, I did not recommend certain water or hunger related perk cards in the first few levels because those things are so abundant in the early game from the Greenbrier footage that you don't have to worry about them really at all. As long as you're looting everything and being thorough with your looting, then you're going to find plenty of food and plenty of water. Next, I would make frequent regular visits back to your camp to do several things. First off is to offload all of your junk. If you guys didn't know, you have a personal stash that you can create in your camp. You can always access, no one else can touch it, but the special thing about that stash is that your junk weighs nothing. You've got 400 pounds of weight, but junk weighs nothing. So what does that mean? You're going to want to go back to your camp, go to a workshop that you have created, scrap all of your junk, scrap all of the weapons and armor that you're not using, and then deposit that in your stash. That means every time you go back to your camp and you need to craft something, it's available for you to use in your crafting, but also it's not weighing you down. Another side note, try not to pick up too many aid items. I know it's tempting, but things that are already made that you can't craft, that you might not even use, consider not even picking it up. Or if you're going to pick it up, put it in your stash and then sell it later, because a lot of those times those will weigh you down, and that's what's going to slow you down when you're trying to level up. My next tip is a simple one, but it'll save you a lot of time, and that's to utilize the favorite wheel. In Fallout 4, we had a favorite sort of D-pad thing where we could go through and choose frequently used items. That's been replaced with the favorite wheel. It's a different button on every platform, obviously, but it allows you to quickly access frequently used items. I would recommend putting your top 3 weapons on the favorite wheel. I would recommend putting stim packs, maybe an abundant aid item that's not a stim pack on there, some food, some water. Obviously, those meters are constantly dwindling down, so you want to make sure you're topped off in those categories so you're not suffering the effects of dehydration or hunger. I love the Pip-Boy, but sometimes the navigation takes so long and it's not very well organized. The favorite wheel allows you to organize stuff on your own terms. My next tip is to complete challenges. As we know, Fallout 76 is online and live service, and because of that, we have some microtransactions that are cosmetic only, and the game fortunately gives us ways to earn those without paying real money, and that's challenges. You can access these at any time through the pause menu, and they're divided into separate categories. Daily challenges will expire every single day, weekly expires every week, but then you've got character, survival, combat, social, and world challenges. I believe these are things that are just completed. Once you complete them, you're done with them. Maybe they'll cycle in the future, but we're not sure. The point is, in the beta, we've got limited time, so you want to make sure to complete as many of these as possible if you want to maximize your atom. My final tip is to utilize every single tool that Bethesda gives you to protect yourself from other players. You don't want people griefing you during your limited 4-hour play session. So if I were you, just to make sure, I would avoid all other players by doing the following things. When you start the game until level 5, you're automatically in pacifist mode, which means you can't shoot other players, and I believe they can't shoot you at all. PvP is completely disabled. However, once you reach level 5, you get a prompt that says PvP is enabled, here are the rules. Now, after you've hit level 5, you can go back and reactivate pacifist mode through the settings. Pacifist mode makes sure that you're not going to damage other players, so you have 0 chance of initiating PvP combat. Just keep in mind, someone else can still shoot you, and in that case, you can utilize the second method, which is to block players. Now, you could go the aggressive route and immediately from the start, when you get in the game, click start, go go to your social menu and block every single person in your session. This will ensure that you can't see them on the map, but they also cannot see you on the map. You will be invisible to them, and the map is so big that this should not be an issue. And then finally, as a last resort, you are able to fast travel if someone else is trying to murder you. If you're not actively engaged in PvP, which means you haven't returned fire, then you absolutely can fast travel to another location in the game, fast travel to your camp for free, fast travel back to Vault 76, fast travel to another person on your team. Those are your options to get away from that. All right, guys, those were 10 tips to help you get a head start in Fallout 76. I hope this helps you maximize your time and be as efficient as possible during this limited beta test. And now for our very first Vault 2017 tip of the day, use melee combat. In the early game, it's strong for several reasons. First off, your perception should be very low. Everyone starts with ones across the board, so your VATS accuracy is not going to be great. As a result, you're going to waste a lot of ammo and miss a lot of shots unless you're very close. Alternatively, using melee combat is very useful because there's a built-in lunge in the game. If you guys remember Blitz from Fallout 4, you're able to lunge forward in VATS with melee weapons to close in and get the kill. A lot of the times it'll be a few whacks and you may not take any damage at all. I recommend crafting the hatchet or the machete early on. Very easy to make with the materials you'll find in the first part of the game. Those will give you great damage, have great mods, and allow you to kill enemies more quickly in the first few levels of the game. In the comment section, tell me what you plan to do first in the beta. Share your thoughts below. If you enjoyed the video, remember to subscribe and hit the bell for more Fallout 76 content like my last video where I go over all of my tips and tricks plans for the game. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.